Well, hello everybody. Good afternoon here from Aquarius rising Africa, where as you can see, it's getting pretty dang chilly here. Winter certainly crept in with a vengeance, but I see Adie, you looking not quite as wrapped up as me. And I welcome with me again, Adie Shub. How are you, Adie? Can you hear me?
Can't hear you correctly. It's kind of coming in and out. I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm not sure if it's me or if it's you. Morné, can you just let us know in the background what's happening? Okay, I'm apparently fine, Adie. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Anyway, I was just saying hello.
Okay,
and I hope you're well. How's it been going?
You're gone again. Crazy.
Talk, Adie, talk. How are you? Talk. Just carry on talking.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm just going to talk.
Carry on talking.
Okay. Good. All right. Hi, Chantelle. Okay, hi, Chantelle. It's great to be on your show again. Thank you for inviting me. And, you know,
Indeed.
The last time that we spoke, we did on holding your center in these tumultuous times. And I think we covered quite a lot of amazing stuff, but at the same time, it was the tools that I really wanted to share with your audience so that we can find our inner balance and not fall over at these times like so many people are doing, you know, and just to keep ourselves in central balance. So, you know, it's so wonderful to be able to self-regulate at these particular times when there is so much trauma going on in the world. You know, trauma is something that is huge, and every day we're living with survival, literally survival of the fittest, the survival of one's mental state, and how we can almost find that balancing point. It's almost like a seesaw in a way. We're either too much in our head, which is the upper, or we're too much down in our emotions. And how can you find that equilibrium of that balance of the seesaw that's completely in alignment? And it takes a lot of conscious awareness to come into. Yeah.
I think at the moment we were just
to conscious awareness of bringing in tools that you can gather from leaders, from people who have gone through trauma and who are finally on the other side, and yet still those deeply held traumas are still there. As I personally experienced, you know, it was something that I walked a path of 31 years, as you know, but it was constant survival, whether it was financial or whether it was emotional, or it was just getting through the moment of walking along a journey with my son who had severe illness. And I realized as much as I tried to use tools, they were coming in fast and furious. And I think this is where we're at right now. Information being released around what's really going on. And the world is reeling with the instability as well as everything that's coming forward. I remember last time when I said to you, you know, when did you start recognizing, you know, that there was darkness, and you went right back to your early childhood. But yes, we've all experienced that trauma and seen aspects of darkness. But I remember when COVID kind of started and I had more time on my hands, and I had a group of women that were very awake, and they led me down the rabbit hole. And literally the shock to my body was enormous. You know, we go into, okay, well, I'm kind of building this little bit of resilience. However, it's a whack to the solar plexus. It shifts us out of our not safe zone. And it's almost like being punched into the solar plexus. So, you know, even we used to wake up in the morning, I finally met Marianne, and she started taking me deeper and darker. And I remember getting to this point where it was like, I can't listen anymore. It's overwhelming me. And I had to do it in little bits and pieces. But then I realized that the most important thing is firstly to align yourself before you even listen to a lot of the dark that's coming up. And so that you're not coming in completely open, that you have got an element of protection that is sitting there, that you can listen to the story, but it doesn't the story doesn't entangle itself into you, that you keep going back to it in your mind, or you're having nightmares over what is coming into revelation. And to me, this is critical. It's very much about how to safeguard yourself from the dark thoughts, the dark energies, etc., etc. And to me, this is vital. So I learned to step back and started working with my morning processes, because to me, it's the same as, and I might repeat myself because I'm sure you've got many new listeners, you've got people who haven't heard me before. But to me, the minute you wake up, it's about changing patterns, getting out of the bed the other way. Instead of most of us, what we do is we switch on the kettle and we look at our phone, and we're shocked by a lot of the dark that's coming in. So first, to go into how can I go into my personal protection, so that I can feel that safety within, that I can listen to the outside world, but I'm not wobbling and, being almost infiltrated with a lot of the negativity, that I can safeguard myself. And to me, this is really important. I don't know how you start your day off. I mean, I'm not too sure. Because you're exposed to it day in, day out. What do you do?
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's important to have your morning. I've for many years I've been having my morning time, where I meditate, I pray, I journal, I do whatever I need to do. I think that's essential, because it's so important to be able to start your day on a good frequency. Part of that includes an ice bowl of water in my face every morning, having a shower shot. So having at least 2 minutes of cold shower before, I start off with a warm and then I finish off with cold. Doing things like oil pulling every morning, using a neti pot every morning, dry brushing before I get in the shower, having a yoga practice. Or if I don't do yoga, I'll take a walk on the beach. I know not many are as privileged as that. I certainly am grateful to have manifested that for myself at this point in time anyway. So yes, it is very important to get that morning time where you are literally preparing for your day. But in having said that as well, I'm well aware that that's a lot easier said than done for a lot of people. I live on my own, okay? We have families, and especially here in South Africa, when we're looking at all the load shedding and stuff that goes on from 4 until 8 in the morning, that's the time when the kids have got to be having breakfast, so, there's a lot of chaos. I mean, I just look at what's happening here right now, never mind just in the world, all over the world. Just the fact, let's just look at all these people dying suddenly. Just the trauma that leaves behind, for the ones that are left behind, and the question marks and not knowing, and the fear that all of life is bringing up for us right now. Interest rates are up, fuel is up, food is up, everything. Inflation is rising. Everything is kind of hitting us sky high right now, So we really, there definitely does call for that time where we have to balance, and it's very difficult to do that. And, I mean, what you were saying earlier on about being exposed to the horrors of the world and what's going on literally beneath the surfaces of our feet. Absolutely. It takes a person to be able to sit and process that and deal with it, you know. However, ignoring it does not serve anyone either. We've got to be aware of what we're doing, because part of what we're doing, we're all complicit to the energies that are created on this planet. None of us can ignore that. All our emotions, all our actions, all our thoughts, all of this is conglomerated, and, you know, we create the experience together on the planet. It's not just one or two or three people or groups of people. So all of us have to take responsibility for that which we are contributing, which is exactly part of this. And, you know, you talk about disentangling yourself from the dark. Yes, but the only way that we're going to do that is by raising our frequency. You can't fight these energies with guns or swords or whatever it is. You know, we've got to realize this is spiritual. Life is spiritual before it becomes physical. We are not human beings trying to be spiritual. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. That is very profound if we allow ourselves to let that sink in. I know a lot of people talk about that. They say the words, but have we understood what that really means? Because it really just means that for a space in time, we are experiencing this. We've all chosen to be here at this point in time. So whatever your life experience is right now, it's what your spirit or your higher self and you and God have agreed upon. And the only reason why you would have agreed upon this is because you know that this is the place where your spirit or your soul is going to get the most growth. Because what we really come to Earth for is growth and expansion. So when we really understand that these challenging situations are here to help us grow and expand, we can then maybe start changing the way we perceive them. And that's going to be 90% of the battle won, or maybe 80%. Just to understand, wherever I'm at in my life, I've created this. A lot of people don't want to accept that, because why would they want to be creating these shitty experiences for themselves, or what they deem to be shitty experiences? Because as long as you have that perception in your mind, it's going to continue to be that, right? So when we look at changing that, looking at the way that we look at these things.
Absolutely, 100% and agree with you.
Yeah, it's about raising our frequency. And the way we do that is by figuring out. Yeah. And it's like, what are the things that give us joy? What are the things that bring us joy? There's a lot of things that don't give us joy as well, exactly when we're looking at some of these things. But the more we bleed and etc. over these things, the more we just contribute to that. So we know that we're on our mission of assisting that path as well. But in the meantime, we also have to look at the things in our personal life that bring us joy. And we have to be able to engage in that. See your friends, see your family, laugh, enjoy life, go to the movies, spend time with your friends. So it's all of these things that we also, we have to continue to engage in, because these are the times, it's like this is the time that we've been given this opportunity on this planet to grow and expand. That's the way I see it. I think it's...
As I said to you, I'm not disentangling myself from the dark, but what I'm doing is I'm safeguarding myself in being able to watch it without having been thrown off balance. So, just going back to morning processes, this is something that's so important, that how do you start your day? And to me, the most important thing is to spend, and I know that's the housewife who's got the 10 children or whatever the case is, or that's under a lot of that morning strain. Even if they take their kids and they invest that time into themselves, because otherwise you're always putting yourself last and you're focusing on what's important. But find somewhere in that day, even if it's not a morning practice. And to me, I found a wonderful way just to try and see how to set my day. And the first and most important thing is just to come to my heart. As I mentioned in the last time that we spoke, it's about love and compassion. But it's all about really going firstly gratitude, because so much is being taken away right now. And yet on the other extent, there is still so many wonderful, beautiful things of just even watching nature, just even if you can't find a single thing, there's always something that you can see that you can be grateful for. And to me, I can spend a good 10 minutes, just going through everything, my beautiful assets that are inside of myself, to just acknowledge it to myself. It's not being vain, it's just seeing yourself and putting yourself first in almost feeding and nourishing that part. And then what I do is I connect to God, okay? And this is where, again, I work with really connection and going into calling the omnipresent, the highest omnipresent aspect of the highest creation of God. And bringing in the light from the upper hemispheres. And it was quite amazing. I've been a very good friend of mine who actually is exposing the modern mystery school. And she's been very brave and courageous, because it's very, very dark. And she works with entity releases. And, I was speaking to her and she said, all you have to do is connect directly to omnipresent self to bring that essence of the godlike into you, and bringing it in almost as a stream of energy to firstly open up the crown, and don't extend it front and back, just keeping that light there, and then running it through each kind of chakra or whatever, so that you can actually see it as it comes into the the third eye, to see it going front and back, throat, front and back, into the heart, solar plexus, into the gut, and seeing that, the sacral chakra opening up, and then to the base where you're just holding that light. It's not opening at the front and the lower sections. And then bringing in that crystalline light, seeing the crystalline light, following the same path, going into the expansion, and again bringing in that beautiful light from God. And as you bring that, to bring in a sphere that is extending outwardly, so that again, that anything that comes in, actually the good comes in, but the negative comes and hits against that orb that you've created and gets bounced back with love. To me, that's safeguarding. And if you are listening to also hardcore stuff, is to almost putting in almost a shield. Or, it's like when the warriors go out, they just put in a shield. That again, it just helps protect the heart energy, because we are already in a stressed environment. And how can we listen to all the underbelly stuff that's coming up and still be able to listen with attention and really feel it, but at the same time not take it on? This is hugely important. Even after I've listened to something dense and that's very, very hardcore, what I do is have a psychic shower. And how do I do that? I imagine that I'm actually stepping under a waterfall of light and allowing all that negativity to actually drain off me, cleanse me, so that I can reclaim my light back. So that again, we're not dimming our light, we're meeting whatever it is with the dark with our light, but we're not allowing it to wobble us or take us off center. To me, that is critical, is to bring in that connection of all that is, and to guard our energetic field. To me, that's highly important. So yes, and then again, if you look at breath, it's quite amazing with trauma, which we're all going through at the moment, whether it's losing a business, whether it's losing a child, whether it's watching die suddenly and watching all these people collapsing. It's about, how can I observe this, be very real, understand what's going on. What can I do about it? Is firstly raise frequency, be very much on high alert, watch the children, watch what's going on, be discerning, which we discussed last time. But if you cleanse this energy off you, it's quite amazing. You energetically shift that energy quite quickly, which is quite nice. So that's a wonderful tool that you can utilize in the morning. And again, it's like our computers, you know, what do? We have to defrag our computers in the morning. And the computer immediately goes into virus and protection. It goes into cleaning up. And it's about how do you also take care of your mind? Because your mind, I mean, our minds are so full at the moment, you know, with fear, anxiety, how are we going to survive? A lot of mental clutter that even, you know, when I try and teach meditation to people, they find that their mind keeps getting in the way and it's hard to switch off the mind. And, you know, it's how do you work with this monkey mind that goes into the worst case scenario or our fears about what's going to happen in the future? We're not there yet. So how can we work with this head of ourselves to actually find our breath again? Because if you're in the thinking mind, what's your breathing? What happens? Very slows down. You're hardly breathing. You're in your intellectual mind. When you're in trauma, you're either hyperventilating, going, when you're in anxiety, you're hyperventilating. And where do we need to come back to? Is our core. It's our tummy, that's the seat of our power. That's the seat of our breath. And I just noticed that every now and again I check in and see, am I breathing? Because a lot of the time we're either holding breath or we're not breathing at all. So it's all about taking that breath and oxygenating ourselves to actually come back to center. So what do we do with this monkey mind? And I think I've mentioned in previous talks to you, and I'd like to mention it again, about this incredible little girl who came through and said, do you know how powerful I am? I can grow my hand. And just to show the audience, because I am going to be working with wacky and weird, totally off with the fairy. However, it's working with your creative mindset to find the inner balance so that you can be like that peaceful, that finds that balance between the mind and the body. So what I do, if my mind's really full, you know, and sometimes we use this expression, oh, my head, it just feels so full. I wish I could take my head off my shoulders. That's our control center. A lot of people can't do that, particularly if they are very much in control. They find it hard to get the head off your shoulders. But if you imagine a wacky, weird, crazy movie, that again, you speak to your brain and you say, listen, I'm not going to lose my head. I just need to clear you out of all the garbage, all the stuff, all the worry, all the fear. How can I imagine myself taking my head off? And there's this big net of light. And what I do is I shake my head and I see all the stuff falling out into this big net of light. Once it's clear, I then put my head back on my shoulders, breathe in space and clarity. And then I see this net being taken up, and almost like a stalk, you can use a stalk, you can use God or whatever the case is, to lift that up to the divine. When people can't take off their heads, there's another quick technique that you can use, which is get a vacuum cleaner pipe. And that vacuum cleaner pipe has got a lot of strength in it. It's got that suction. You put it into your mind, put it on, that cord goes up, that tube goes up to the divine, and suck it out of your mind. Because then what happens is you come into a clear space where you can catch your breath, which is just so amazing. And then to start just to put your hand on your belly and notice that a lot of us use only a tiny percentage of our lung capacity. We shallow breathe. But you start really starting to work with your breath, that you're bringing it in through the belly, so you feel your hands rising and you exhale and you keep breathing that energy in. That creates stabilization. It really starts allowing you to calm down the nervous system and really be able to catch your breath again in a way. And through the application of breath, it really allows that fight, flight, and freeze, the cortisol, the adrenaline, to literally subdue so that you can actually find that inner balance once again. I'm sure you've worked with breath work. I'm sure you have.
Yeah, breath work is so important, because in yoga as well, that's why breathing is so important. Your breath and your mind are intrinsically linked. So what you were saying with when you're stressed or anxious, it's the shallow breathing, right? So the minute, what we also do, the minute that you feel anxious or your mind has got that monkey mind mentality to it, so to speak, we just start breathing deep, and as you say, as you inhale, expand the belly. So on the inhale, which is usually the opposite way around to we do it, the way we actually are doing it now. But if you look at a baby when it's born, that's how the babies breathe. But as we've gone on, especially if we come from the West, most of us in the West have not been taught how to breathe. The Indian people that follow the strong yogic traditions, they definitely have the proper breathing. But it's literally as you breathe, you expand the belly as you breathe in, and imagine it's a balloon just being filled. And then on the exhale, you'll just squeeze the navel against the spine. And I don't breathe out through my mouth. I do what we do in yoga, the ujjayi breathing. So I breathe it back through the circulation of my body. And then at the end, I'll breathe it out. But what that does, it completely brings the mind down to a calmer space. If we look at people who are smoking, what are they really doing? They're breathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're also just breathing in a whole lot of crap at the same time.
Yes.
So if we think about that, just to then break space, if it's possible, even if you go and walk walk around the block or up the road or up and down your driveway, just to get breath as we start breathing. And that's exactly the same thing with a cold shower, the shower shot, as I call it, in the morning. The minute that cold water hits you, it's like, what do? You start breathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, a grumpy mood just flies by the wayside. It resets. I mean, if you look medically, I don't know what it is now offhand, but I have definitely looked into that. Medically, it resets everything, right? And the same thing with waking up in the morning. And what I do is you take a salad bowl that's big enough to put your face in. Okay, and you put like water at the bottom, and then you freeze it. And then in the morning, you just add some water on top of that. So you wait for it to obviously have water, and then you dunk your face in that. And you start in that ice water. I want to tell you, I started off, I think maybe 3 seconds at a time for like 5 times. But you get that like freeze headache for a second. But it's the most incredible feeling. It resets everything. And then I'm now doing it for like 30 seconds at a time. You just hold your breath, dunk your face, and then I'll take out, and then I'll do that maybe 3, 4, or 5 times. And then afterwards, your face goes. It's also very good for your skin, I do believe. But that's not why I do it. But your whole face is like red and it gets warm and you just feel everything just resetting. So there are so many ways that we can actually do things. And of course, I'm a very physical person. So I enjoy physical exercise. So I like to walk. I like to do yoga. I like to be outside in nature. That's how I feel as well. I kind of get myself back into balance. But definitely, even if we go walking and doing yoga and all these things, what really is the most important is the inner introspection, because there's a reason why we're getting caught up in these anxieties. There's a reason why we're getting caught up in these fears. And the reason is because our frequencies are matching those frequencies. We understand our law of correspondence works. It's no secret to the people who watch this channel that we created from sound, frequency, and vibration. So whatever you emit, whatever thoughts you've had, whatever experience you've had, whatever consciousness you carry, whatever your emotions are permeating out of you. And like a magnet, you permeate an invisible frequency that attracts and repels. Simple. So whatever's going on inside of you is the one thing that never lies. I mean, you can Gucci yourself up and do all the Pradas and the, I don't know, whatever it is, and look the part. But sooner or later, sooner rather than later, that wears off very quickly. And then we start, the inner being starts revealing itself. How do we deal with stress? How do we deal with rejection? How do we, we're in relationships. I mean, show me one person on this planet who's never been betrayed or hurt in a relationship, and I'll show you someone who's not been to this planet. We're all about relationships. We've all been betrayed, right? We've all been hurt. We've all had money issues, I'm sure, or something around that. We've all understood what that means. But at the end of the day, if we're going to allow ourselves to get caught up in the fear and the not having and the fear around that, that's where we're going to stay. Earth is about learning about betrayal. We come here to learn about betrayal. That's why we come here. Now, the opposite of betrayal, hello, is truth. So when we get to a point of saying, I need to see the truth about this betrayal. You see, then we flip the switch.
Mm-hmm.
Then we start receiving. You see, then we put ourselves into a place of attraction rather than repelling. Because every time we have resistance to something, we're going to push away the thing we actually really want. So the truth of the betrayal is, I've betrayed me. Hello? I've not trusted me. I've not looked after me. I've not said, put down my, whatever it might be. You always going to find that. And this is what I tell people all the time. And this is where people keep glitching, where they're not understanding these things. And by the way, I just want to say at this point, I'm starting a workshop in 2 weeks' time, Conscious Creation. And we're going to be doing exactly this. We're going to be doing the Ho'oponopono, by the way. We're using the sacred Ho'oponopono to take us through. It's 8 weeks. We're doing yoga, which is optional. You don't have to do the yoga. You can maybe bring in something else. But if you're not in a position to do it, but doing something physical, that's fine. I'll give you other things. And then, of course, the whole looking at the inner alchemy. So very interesting. So you guys, if you're interested in knowing more about that as well, you guys can just email me. But it's really, it's a beautiful time. This is the time where we are here to wake up. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. Jesus did not come here to save us. Jesus showed us how to save ourselves. Mm-hmm. If we really look at the true teachings and the essence of the teachings of Christ, we're going to see that everything Jesus did then, we are capable of doing. Cool. We can heal the sick. I've done it many times, and I don't say that from a point of arrogance at all. Mm-hmm. We can bring the dead back to life. I've done that too, with God's permission. I've had people die in front of me, literally. Yeah. So it is possible, but we have to be very aligned. It doesn't mean we are flawless and fault-free. It means we have an intention. It means we have a desire. It means we've heard our inner calling. And when we hear that and when we heed that call, that's when things start going a lot better. It doesn't mean life is smooth sailing. It just means now you trust, you have the tools. And with that, we are able to navigate that. And it's all frequency. And, I love what you were saying about bringing this all in, bringing in the colors and getting that visual. It's so important. But what I want to also add to that is that along with the visual, you have to create a feeling that
That's it.
matches that. So you can't be pissed off at the world and fighting in your head and telling everyone to F off in your mind. And I still have those moments. I got to sometimes really get myself out of those, okay? But it's like, and bring this in and expect all this good stuff. You've got to bring it in and you've got to feel. So if you're not in a place of feeling joy in that moment, then take yourself into a moment where you did feel joy, where you can remember, oh, yes, when I was hugged, when I was loved, when I received money, when I had this beautiful, unexpected surprise. Wow. Then you bring in the feeling that matches that. Boom. There is your manifestation. When the two come together, IQ and EQ, right?
Yes, we've got that wonderful memory bank within inside of ourselves. We've got the negative and we've got the positive. We can tap into the positive. But you were talking about the baby and the baby's breath. And if you look at it, it's so trusting. It's that essence of dropping into the belly is around trust. And again, where you can find your breath again. But as I said, and you look at the child and shocks, disturbances, it could be a bully at a school, it could be a parent, it could be fighting within the family group. And what happens is we literally go, and it's, if you look at when you exhale, it's letting go. Even if you look at the time of death and you look at that final breath, it's an exhale.
What do they call it in Afrikaans? The rochel. In Afrikaans, the old people have a word for it. It's when they take their last breath. The rochel, I think it's rochel asem. I don't know what it is in English, but it's rochel asem. It's like literally when someone crosses over. A lot of people say, I've not heard it ever. Thank goodness I've not been in that situation. But there's when they take their last breath, it's like quite a loud sound from what I can hear. But as you say, that letting go, that leaving, that finality, that I'm out of here. Yeah, makes sense.
I studied lymphology, which is working with the lymphatic system, which is all about clearing poisons in your body. And they work a lot with breath, trampoline. You're getting on that trampoline, you're breathing, you're bringing in oxygenation to your body. But what they did is instead of just the out breath of like that, they utilized breathing out through your teeth. So you breathe in and then go. That allows a lot more oxygenation to be, again, the carbon dioxide to flow out. And often when we're not breathing and you realize, my goodness, I'm holding my breath or I'm not breathing at all. One way to get into active breathing, which they recommended, was to do quite fast, repetitive breathing, which can actually make you feel dizzy. And if it does make you feel dizzy, it means that there's quite a lot of stuff that needs to be detoxed. So what they do is they're, again, working from the belly, and you're going, literally, you're going, we're doing that quite often, then deep inhalation, and then through the teeth. So you're flooding the body with new life, new oxygenation, which brings in good circulation, which gets the heart pumping, which also allows you to stabilize within inside of yourself. So breath is exceptionally important. Watch when you go to sleep or when you are massaging, when you're having a massage. I've noticed because I'm a massage practitioner, when I'm working on the body, and it's so fascinating to watch the belly as they start relaxing more and more, they start coming into belly breathing. So again, as you let go, you'll be able to again find that center, which is exceptionally important. I listened to this woman the other day and it amazed me. She said to me, she was talking about, I often used to use the peacock energy, go into your power, almost imagine yourself as a peacock, taking up space, put the crown on your head, chest out, and walk into a meeting like that. But she said something which is so interesting. She said, if you put yourself in your powerful state and somebody comes like this and they push you, actually you'll fall over. But if you drop if you drop, last time I mentioned about dropping into the heart, thinking of somebody that you love or an animal, and boom, you're immediately in your heart. But how do you drop down to your center? And it's almost, it's literally about bringing that energy down. Also, I use the elevator technique, where you imagine you as a little person getting into an elevator or a lift, as we say it in South Africa, and you allow that to travel all the way down to the belly. And you come in from this center, and you feel, it's quite amazing. You feel this incredible core strength, that when you're in that core strength, nobody can push you over. You're no longer a pushover. So how can you work with your vital energy to actually almost come back into rootedness with inside of yourself, that again, nothing can touch you there. And this is where, again, to me, it's how do we walk and how do we navigate through this intense journey where, again, everything is rocking and moving, and how do we still keep our inner sanity, keep our mindset strong? How do we whisk out negative thinking? And how do we not take things personally? Because again, people who are struggling right now, or really having a problem with getting clients or whatever the case is, a lot of people can reverse it back into themselves and say, what's the matter with me? And go into the inner critic, which demeans and actually takes, again, honey, I shrunk the kids. You're doing it to yourself as well. You're literally going into that powerless position. How can you keep that in the core and realize actually it's got nothing to do with you, that you're bloody marvelous? And it's just what's going on around the world.
Yeah.
And, to me, even having a critic that's constantly hammering you all the time, and so many of us are burdened with the critic of that aspect that goes into what's the matter with you, or why aren't you good enough, or look at this, or look at that.
When we're looking at, sorry, are we overlapping here? Sorry. When we're looking, I mean, I don't know if you know Caroline Myss's work. I love Caroline Myss. I think she's one of the original awesome spiritual teachers. And she talks about the archetypes. She does a lot of work on the archetypes. And, she talks about the 4 main archetypes with which we are all pretty much born, which is the prostitute, the victim, the child. Gosh, now I'm going to forget the 4th one. Morné, I know you have it there. Anyway, but the first one, which is very interesting, of course, is the child, the wounded child. Now we look at that, and it's so interesting because everything is coming from that. Mm-hmm. It's like and so when we start looking at doing the inner child healing and woundology around that, because that child might just be a little thing, but that energy has the ability to, within a nanosecond, take over anything joyful in your life when that inner child, or the wounded inner child, decides to make an appearance and throw a tantrum, right? So we've learned, and a lot of that comes from criticism we've had as a child, maybe our parents, often school, society, whatever it might be. I always say it's such an opportunity for us to look in the mirror and say, well, if I'm being criticized, or I'm constantly criticizing myself, what is it that I need to see that I'm criticizing myself about? Let me just look at this openly without trying to shove it away somewhere, and acknowledge that I do feel less than. I do feel unattractive, or whatever it might be. I do feel more stupid, or whatever it might be. Acknowledge that. You see, we can't heal that which we don't acknowledge. So we need to acknowledge our wound. And from that place, we decide, okay, you are so misunderstood. You're here for the wrong reason. So let's just right these wrongs and set you all free. Then you don't have to be wounded and critical and whatever it is, judgmental. Judgment is a huge one that we hammer ourselves with. Huge. All we have to do is look at how we judge each other. And that is a damn fine example of how we're judging ourselves, because you would not be judging another or criticizing another or betraying another if you were not doing these things to yourself. It can't be another way. It can't. It's like that energy that attracts, you know, the correspondence.
Of course it is. You know, and the question one poses oneself, well, you're not feeling seen, you're not being acknowledged. And often I say to my clients, well, are you seeing yourself? Are you acknowledging yourself? And it's like, no.
No,
So again,
exactly.
it's to take it
Starts
in the
with
lesson.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also even as
which
a
is
child.
why.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to say, which is why it's so important to do the morning time. I want to just say that to everyone, because you see, many of us are angry in life because people don't commit to us. My husband didn't commit. He had an affair. My wife didn't. Lack of commitment. And the question is, are you committing to you? You see, how many of us say, oh, I'm starting a diet on Monday. Boom, it falls by the wayside. Oh, I'm starting to exercise. Boom, it falls by the wayside. Oh, I'm taking my dogs for a walk. Boom. So we keep promising ourselves a better way of living, but we keep not doing it. Now, when we are doing that to ourselves, are we surprised when we attract that in another? We can't be surprised. We can't. That's the way that it works. So when we understand that showing up for myself in the morning is the best investment I can give me, and that's what I keep saying. When time gets tough, I mean, I'm sure you've had it yourself as a healer over the years. I've had people say, oh, I don't have the time. I'm going, this is the last thing you want to give up when you're in stressful times. And we do it the other way around. That's the time where you see your therapist or your healer. You make that investment in yourself. You show up for yourself. Yes, you give yourself permission to fall by the wayside but then get on the bus again. When you know you're working towards something that is productive, commit to that. Doesn't mean you've got to be rigid. Commit. Yes, it's challenging when we're making lifestyle changes, when we realize we've been drinking 6 liters of Coca-Cola a day, and well, that needs to change when I've suddenly been now diagnosed with level 77 diabetes, right? I can't be surprised. I have to then start making the lifestyle changes. So that's what I'm saying. So yes, it is difficult, but when you start seeing the results, you know, when you start being consistent and you start seeing how little things start changing, because life is not a destination. It's a journey. It might start with the idea of a destination. Fantastic. I mean, it's like I'm at home now and I want to go on holiday, but, well, why should I go on holiday? Because I've got to come home anyway. So why would I need to go on holiday? Because I'm going to come home anyway, right? It's the experience in life, the journey we take, and that's what grows us. So when we decide to go to a certain place, take the walk. And even if you've got to do some spiritual 4x4ing, take the road less traveled, you know, get out, slow down, walk around, check what's around you. Enjoy, because that is how I believe God has really intended us to live our lives on earth, to enjoy the experience, take notice of the little things, appreciate the tiny things in life, appreciate that you have a roof over your head. I mean, there's this girl on one of my WhatsApp groups. I have no idea where she finds my number. But the whole of yesterday, I mean, and she's clearly got some mental issue. Sounds like she goes a bit bipolar. And then she starts sending these horrific messages on voice note to everyone and swearing and hating everyone. And, you know, and you can see people are trying to be nice to her, and she just hates everyone who's even putting out a hand, you know. She didn't have a place to sleep last night. So there she is under the stars, not having a place to sleep. And it's like, you know, this is kind of what's happening. So when I'm so grateful that I have my room, my roof over my head, I go, wow, that I have hot water in my shower in the morning. that I have a pillow on my bed.
Mm-hmm.
When we start enjoying and appreciating these little things, we start just feeling better. And when we feel better, life becomes better because we're putting out a different vibe.
And you realize how rich, you're rich inside, and that's the thing. And it's not looking at one's possessions. It's about getting back to just the simplicity of life. And, even getting out in nature and noticing all the teachings in nature and just quietening down and just becoming the observer, But again, as you'll notice that the mind does try and push you away from consciousness or awareness. This is the distraction. So again, how can you, attention diverted, but in a healthy way, rather than, completely becoming discombobulated. It's really about really finding that center, the foundation. To me, it's set the foundation for your day. That's number one. Conscious eating, it's you're watching a video while you're eating. You're not into, I've just been growing organic vegetables, and to see how long it takes for a butternut to grow or a tomato. And every day you go to that plant, you water it, you get so excited when a tiny little butternut comes out, and you wait in anticipation of tasting that joy of you growing your own organic garden. And it's amazing to see how we just take food so for granted. It's like, we're not even consciously eating and recognizing it's the same as when you're planting something or new seed. Unless you go back each day, a new habit, and you keep on watering it, you keep on reminding yourself and talking to yourself and that kind of thing, it starts building up that inner core strength, which is so important. So it needs to be practiced. And practiced. So somebody might take a tool now, but because they're so robotic in the way that they have walked, it's so easy to go back into that mainstream way of how you were living, unless it's continuously repeated, that it becomes an organic experience. And this is where, again, you can take these little tiny tools that even, that again, waking up consciously, becoming aware of your dreams, writing them down quickly before you get up, because otherwise you're going to lose them. So even if you put pointers, because that's also telling you what's going in your subconscious mind, just sit back and give yourself the space and time, because in a way, as much as the chaos is happening, this is a time for us to align ourselves, to spirit, to the divine. And as you say, to trust, to go into certainty. That's a big one. Trust and certainty, because when you go into trust and certainty, it's quite amazing to see that it's sometimes not in your time and it might take a little bit longer. But if you keep that trust and certainty, it will be attracted to you, which is incredible. And you start creating miracles. And you realize that you do have innate power. But again, even around this powerlessness of watching our world, our old world disintegrate before we go into new earth, when that helpless anger that you feel as well. I mean, I was actually showing somebody, because of the anger workshop, I cut all these pieces of hosepipe. And I said to him, there's so much helpless anger that there's nobody to really shout at. You can't shout at the politician. You can't shout at the child traffickers. It's not there. There's nobody that you can hit out at. But it's amazing if you take that helpless anger and you allow it to come out of you. It's amazing. It exhales that energy out rather than allowing it to contaminate you. And each time it starts building in that resentment, that anger, that actually empty out your head, empty out your emotions. If you want to cry, allow those tears. Don't try and pull yourself back together again. And I think, that's the whole thing is around the stress and the cortisol and the adrenaline that's coursing through our veins and our anxiety level. So we go and take the anti-anxiety pill and we feel what we'll hold on to. That becomes our almost God in being able to help us center ourselves. But actually there's tools in which you can work with your mind as well. It's like anxiety. You go into first, where do I feel it? Come back into yourself. Where do I feel? So it's either here or it's in your tummy. So what can you do to release that anxiety? Put it into another vessel. So how can you put it into another vessel? Take a balloon, an empty balloon. What color is it? Okay, place it over the belly or the chest that you're feeling the anxiety. Come back into that deep breathing. Breathe in, breathe into that center. Exhale that anxiety into the balloon. Keep breathing, because again, we're coming back to breath, which is regulating ourselves, and we're taking whatever is worrying us and we're breathing it into another container. And each breath starts regulating, and you see the balloon getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And give it all the time you need. Don't let it pop. Once it's full, you tie it up and you release it. Watch it. Watch it going up. See it moving further and further away from you, getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears. Check in then. How's it feeling? There's still anxiety there. Okay, get another balloon. You can try this practice just to literally exhale, let it out, give it to something else, and that's how you kind of micromanage yourself. If it's still there, then you need to go further, because again, what is that anxiety tripping inside of you? It's almost like an electrical board. Again, all energy goes down. How can you reclaim your energy? Because it's most probably setting. It was set somewhere from a childhood issue or trauma that you experienced before. You know, if you look at children's drawings, sometimes they're in the middle and their friends and their pets and everything are around them. And again, the child almost works with, we manifest what our unconscious beliefs believe are true. And that's something that's so important, that ultimately the child, it gets inflicted on the child through self-persecution. I must be, mommy and daddy are having a fight, I must be wrong. And then we continue that, and a trauma comes up and we go back to that time where that trauma or whatever happened. So
Yeah, it's that hook. It's like something hooks you in.
Hooks you in. Hook, line, and sinker, and it sinks you. It takes you down, 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 down. So again, to me, it's about empty out so that you actually have more breathing space, and you can then see that you can breathe easier. So it's amazing. You see how you're using this mind of yours, and you're allowing it to work for you rather than it becomes your servant, as we've heard in so many wonderful philosophies. Let your mind be the servant and not the ruler.
Yeah.
And that's how we survive. It's through here. So it's almost doing a switch. Instead of recognizing that this isn't in control, our body is telling us enormous amounts of messages and holding it within our body. But we try and intellectualize too much rather than going and finding a healthy tool to release it, to let the air out, so that we can actually, instead of going into the hard ride, we can still move forward, but with a little bit more flexibility and flow. It really does help. It's enormous. It's amazing to see. You know,
it's wonderful,
as I mentioned even before, you know, trauma release.
Yeah.
Yes?
Carry on, sorry, Adie.
No, like with trauma release, you know, as I discussed before, when a deer gets nearly caught and then gets away and they shake, 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 and they allow that nervous system, it's almost to just self-regulate. And you can do this at home. You can go and have a TRE session with somebody, learn the techniques, get into the postures, allow yourself to self-regulate. And then it's also about bringing yourself back home to yourself, because every time we have trauma or we split off, we go into disassociating. And again, it's very important to bring that part back. So what if you went back to that part and said, my darling, it's going to be okay. You know what? You will get through this. We will work together. And you work with that part of yourself to self-regulate yourself. So again, you are the medicine. It's not outside of yourself. Again, it's utilizing yourself. And you've got so many amazing tips, tools, working with wacky weird, even if it feels completely out of context. You know, looking at a tree that's growing, and yes, there's people that are going to be lost along the way. People that, again, especially now that we're putting in boundaries, and this is the time where we're speaking our truth, and some people can't handle it and they're going to disappear. It's okay. With that, a stronger bond, a stronger relationship will come in. It gives you space to bring in newness. And in that way, it's a much healthier kind of environment for you to operate in. So again, sometimes loss of people where you're putting in your boundary, or you're going into, again, this is my space, you're contaminating it, and it doesn't sit well with me. I prefer it if you did that and that. And if they can't handle it, it's okay. It's all right. It's okay. There's news coming in, which is beautiful. So again, it leaves, as you said, there's no death. There's only rebirth again. So again, are we scared of dying? We're dying right now. Guys, we die. We're dying to old aspects of ourselves. But in this opportunity, we have every potential to rebirth a healthier version of ourselves, to become resilient, to go into what's important. And again, instead of listening to whatever you're coming into much more heartfelt and going into embodying yourself, which is just so fabulous. It's like a chicken that goes like that. It's literally, when it's roosting, it goes dum, 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 dum. Come back down. Don't go too much up here. Don't go into the worry. Again, how can you, to me, even work knowing that when I listen to your shows and that, is there anything I can do? You know what? I can put God's beautiful, beautiful light around that individual. I feel so helpless. I don't know how to help that individual. Even doing something like that is beautiful. It really is. That is really what you're doing, which is wonderful. And even the child trafficking, what I do every day, I bring in light into the tunnels. I vision myself pushing in that light. Is it making a difference? I'm sure it is, because collectively, if we all do that, it's bringing light where there is darkness. Is it going to start emerging faster, that it gets cleared? If we can be a participant and not sit on the sidelines being the watcher, but how can we contribute to somebody else's pain? We don't have to be the hero and step in. We can hand over and put it in a safer container, a safe holding space. To me, this is very important. Yeah, I see that we've already been talking for an hour. I don't know, time warps are like, woo, woo, woo. It's quite amazing. It feels like we've been speaking for 10 minutes and it's already over an hour. Wow.
Indeed. Oops, indeed.
So yes, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been wonderful to have you, Adie. Thank you for joining me again today. And I want to just say thanks to all our lovely viewers here. Kanga, I hear you sing. I like the balloon trick here. Nice. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you. So sorry to hear about your ex, Lisa. Crazy times. We're losing people. And but at the same time, we have the opportunity of being rebirthed into a whole new existence and experience. And on that note, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you guys all soon again. I'm with Bryce and Catherine Edwards tomorrow. I think 4 o'clock my time, which I don't know what time that is, 8 or 9 or 10. Whatever we'll put it up on your time in the morning. I think it's about 9 a.m. EST, maybe 10. But we'll put it up on the schedule. Got bantering with Bryce and Catherine tomorrow, which is Friday. Look forward to seeing you all then. Oh, yes. And by the way, for those of you who watch David Zublig's show, The Dark Outpost, I'm actually on there later on in 4 hours from now. So if any of you catch the show there, I'm going to be interviewed by them. So looking forward to that as well. Adie, thank you so much for joining me again today. And always with some wonderful wisdom.
I am in Johannesburg. I am in Joburg. If anybody wants to take up some sessions while I'm here until Wednesday. So I'll leave my number and you can come and have a session just to exhale.
Indeed. Well, that's for all of you who are in South Africa. That's what Adie's just saying. She's in Joburg. Doing some work there. If there's any of you who want to do some personal sessions, and I know you're running some workshops there as well, right?
Yes, this weekend we're doing Inner Child and Anger. Saturday working with the inner child, and the second session on Sunday is how to get the anger out and to learn healthy ways of communicating boundaries. So, yep.
Fantastic.
It'll be great. Great to see many of you there.
Awesome.
Much love.
Thank you so much, Adie. And everybody, thank you again
for
joining me and Adie and Morné in the back room. God bless you all. Take good care of yourselves. And I shall see you in tomorrow. Like, share, subscribe, please, 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 please. Enjoy your comments. If there's anyone that has questions or anything around this, let us know and we'll address them in the future. Take good care, everybody. Mwah. See you soon.
Bye. Bye.